You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Pete Futak is with us. We could say the complete opposite of college football, where every game seems to have a lot riding on it, and it's always great theater. The odds to win the SEC championship are updated, and LSU is fourth behind Texas, Georgia, and Alabama. Pete, I admit, I do my very best not to look through purple and gold colored glasses. I am surprised. I mean, I really do, and people here will tell you sometimes they get pissed at me because they think I'm too far the other way. But I look at LSU's roster and I go, I think this is the best roster in the SEC after what they did in the transfer portal. I don't understand the over-under 8.5 being behind Bama and Georgia in these odds. You're from an outside perspective. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees. What am I missing there that is still the hesitancy on LSU?
I mean, besides Brian Kelly as your head coach, but they're good. I mean, they're talented, obviously, but I think you're not missing anything other than you just have to kind of look down the schedule. And, we forget now we're in a college football playoff expansion era where there is room to miss and you can lose 2 games and be okay. You can't really lose 3, though. And if you look down that LSU schedule, it's not, there's always those games like last year. If you were to look at this time and say the Ole Miss schedule, well, Kentucky, that's a win. And it's not.
Right.
That's kind of the hard part now where is going to be that out of left field loss coming from where they do lose on a last second, play or something like this. And are there going to be 3 losses in that mix? Are those games? Is the defense better enough where they will come on the right side of those 48-46 shootouts that are going to come? But certainly it's as talented as anybody else. And look, this year, and this is why I kind of laugh, all these people who do their they're way too early, top 25s and stuff like this. They're guessing. It's such a guess right now. I mean, I'm fine-toothing all this stuff. It's like last year was easy. I'm not that bright, but that last year at this exact time, I was yelling at everyone, all my degenerate gambler friends, just go heavy Ohio State. They're going to win the national title. They have more talent than everyone else. They're going to win it all. That was easy. Michigan was actually kind of easy the year before. This year, honestly, ask the average college football fan, who the top 10 teams are. Now ask to name their starting quarterbacks. I mean, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, right down the line. I mean, there's like 8 of the top 10 teams. There's a Drew Aller and maybe Arch Manning, but then everyone else has got new starting quarterbacks and a whole lot of uncertainty. So seems like it's going to be one of those years more like 2019 where there's going to be an out-of-left field team that just rises up and rocks that we're just not quite seeing right now. And it might be this LSU team, kind of like it was in 19.
To your point about quarterbacks, I mean, LSU has an answer, and it's the leading returning passer in all of college football. So I'll pose it that way, why isn't Garrett Nussmeier is literally the only 4,000-yard returning passer in the country. Why isn't Garrett Nussmeier in this offense getting more play outside of here?
It will, because it's LSU and it hasn't really played. I mean, remember, Jaden Daniels didn't get that much hype until he started kicking. And remember, obviously, Joe Burrow was just a guy. I mean, no one saw. I mean, he was just going to be a starting quarterback, and maybe a 5th-round draft pick flyer at best. And then all of a sudden he turns into, that in one of the greatest seasons of all time. So it might kick in fast. But it's hard because Arch Manning's going to suck all the oxygen out of the quarterback room, especially in the SEC world this year. And then everyone else out there is trying to look for the next big thing that's kind of a little out there, a little excited. Maybe I'm not quite on the Lenora Stellars train like everyone else is, the DJ Lagway and all on and on. So, but it'll happen. He's going to be a great passer. The pro scouts are all over him, and certainly he's going to put up a gajillion yards this year.
Pete Futak, College Football News. Let me follow up on you saying Arch is going to suck the air out of the quarterback room. Can you elaborate? What do you mean there?
He's number one. Everyone's going to assume this is the year for Arch. Like last year, Cam Moore's a nice number 1 overall pick. Arch Manning is seen as, because of the last name, because of all the hype, because that he's about as clean a prospect as you can find in terms of just mechanics and coached up and tools and all that. he is the number one pick in the NFL draft next year, and on a Texas team that until they can prove that they can get by Steve Sarkisian's bad coaching, that's going to be the team that's going to rise up. That's going to be in the front and center all year long. And so when it comes to who are the top quarterbacks in college football this year, everyone knows. Lots of the diehard college football fans know who Cade Klubnik is, but Clemson is ACC good. It's not really national title good. Drew Aller's at least a name, but in Penn State's pretty good. But again, this happens every time that people don't, especially voters in the polls, don't know who the starting quarterback is. If you can't name them, it's hard to really get excited. And everyone knows Arch Manning, and everyone knows Texas was close last year, so everyone's going to put Texas at the top 3, if not number 1.
Got it. So you're saying that it'll just be all the conversation all year with Arch.
Yeah.
That makes a ton of sense. Pete Futak's with us, College Football News, on Twitter at Pete Futak, F-I-U-T-A-K. Give him a follow. When we started, you mentioned, obviously, Brian Kelly, speaking as a detriment. Same question, Kalen DeBoer. Why should someone be bullish on Kalen DeBoer?
First year, I mean, he does deserve a little time to get this thing going, and he was so good so fast at Fresno State and then at Washington, where everyone just took to his offense. If this thing, as good as Jalen Milroe was, and I thought he was actually should have deserved more Heisman hype and consideration 2 years ago in Daniels' year. He wasn't quite the player for this offense. He's a great deep ball thrower, and he runs. But this offense that DeBoer runs, when he gets the right guys in place, it's going to put up 1,000,000 yards. The difference for Alabama is he's never really had a defense, and Alabama, that doesn't really work. So it's only 1 year. So you got to give him a lot of leeway, because it's impossible. No one's going to follow Nick Saban and do that. We're never going to see that. So I'm giving him a little bit of a break on that. Whereas, Brian Kelly, he's a made man. I still can think he's, forgetting all the other stuff that happened in Notre Dame. He's on the field. He's one of the more underappreciated guys at Notre Dame, because one, Irish fans don't really like him at this point, and also he won a lot of games for them. He's always kind of produced. He wins games. But now at LSU, obviously, you want him to win national championships, not just be in the consideration every year.
You mentioned Sellers and Lagway not being high on them. By the way, I completely agree with you there. So if you take Sellers, Lagway, or South Carolina, Florida out of the mix, what is a team, Pete, that's lurking that maybe you think isn't getting as much conversation as maybe it deserves?
At least in the SEC? I mean, at the moment, I think there's an underestimation, if possible, at Georgia. I mean, they still have a lot of no-name guys, but they're really good. They seem to have fixed the glitch at wide receiver, which that was the one thing over the last couple of years. They somehow did not have the explosiveness that you would want in the passing game, even with Carson Beck throwing. So everyone dogged Carson Beck for being bad. I think it was more of the receivers. I think Beck's going to go off for Miami this year. And then in the SEC, I think people are going to start dogging Alabama and kind of saying, oh, well, DeBoer, this isn't the same as Saban, but that's a top 5 overall team. And Georgia's certainly got the talent to be a number 1 overall team. But in lurking, Ole Miss is going to, I think, take a little bit of a step back. South Carolina is good, and they're going to get overhyped because of Sellers. I think there's a little bit too much love on Florida. So like you mentioned before, why not LSU? Well, that might be the team that is going to start the season about 11th-ish or so in most of the rankings and be right there in the mix for a lot of big things. Yeah,
it's interesting, Pete. I feel like the narrative here, and again, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Admittedly, this feels an awful lot like Mettenberger from 12 to 13, Burrow from 18 to 19, Daniels from 22 to 23. Now you have a fifth-year quarterback and a second-year starting. They just went and bought a gigantic portal class. It feels like they're poised. Now, I asked you who's underrated, and you hesitate on the SC. It kind of sounded like maybe nationally that you have that team in mind. So if it's not in the SC, who is the team that maybe we're sleeping on right now we should be paying more attention to?
All right, there's two ways to look at this. One way is
I knew you had this. I knew you had the answer locked, ready to go. All right, let's hear it.
Because you have to remember the number one thing right now in college football is what is your schedule, and with all this expansion stuff, do you miss Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee? Or do you have to play? Do you miss the top teams? Do you miss Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan? And what does your schedule look like? Basically, pick your Big 12 team and go. And who really bought themselves a team, as you put it, with LSU? Texas Tech.
I knew it.
Has done nothing. There are certain programs out there everyone thinks are good, like Ole Miss, but you look and they just have never really won anything. Texas Tech's never won anything. I mean, they had the one blip of a year under Mike Leach, and even then, they were like the third best team in their own division and didn't really do much with it. Texas Tech has never, ever done anything. And they've been kind of close over the last few years, and they've got the money there. Then they went and got themselves a team because talent-wise, they are low. The problem, though, is, again, the schedule. So, you look at the Texas Tech schedule, every team in the Big 12 is capable of winning a game. You can, even the Cincinnati's and Kansas, and, remember, the teams that were supposed to be awesome last year stunk. Utah was awful. Arizona was awful. Oklahoma State was awful, and they're all good again. So, but talent-wise, it's Texas Tech. And I'm going to give you another name based on just schedule to kind of watch out for. They talk about the oxygen in the room being sucked out. Let's see what old Bill Belichick does with North Carolina. Because for all the other, salacious stuff happening, he's still Bill Belichick, and they don't play anybody. That's not a great team, but that is a 10-2, record about to happen there with the Tar Heels. And all this other stuff will be kind of a quirky, side note. If the ball's kicked off and all of a sudden the Tar Heels, it's, November, I'll say, wait a minute here. North Carolina is like 9-1 or something, and they're in the college football playoff mix. So again, long-winded way of saying it's really all about the schedules and who you get.
Aside from October the 4th against Clemson, I'll give Bill Belichick the edge in every game they play until they get to November. You're completely right about it. I mean, it's a whole lot of.
And they're not going to be very good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're not good. And then the flip side of that, you want to go back to the SEC team. Take a look at Oklahoma and Oklahoma and Wisconsin. You want to talk about two proud programs? Look at their schedule and find me 6 sure thing wins on either one. I mean, it really does depend on who you play.
I always say it's who has the most manageable schedule, the fewest question on the roster against the most manageable schedule. You want to look at how you're projecting a team. It's a great way to do it. And you're 100% right about North Carolina. I'm looking at Oklahoma's schedule too. It's brutal. You're right. Find me 6 wins. Gonna be a bumpy road up there in Norman this year, but can't get here soon enough. Pete Futak, of course, publisher over at College Football News, and get it there and get him on Twitter at Pete Futak. Always appreciate the convo, man. Thanks so much for the time.
And when LSU becomes this dominant force that rips through this whole season, I'll claim that I told you first that they were going to be awesome. I'll just say that I
don't know, man. Right out the gate, you had a pretty fervent shot across the bow to Brian Kelly. I think I might clip that for you, Pete.
Oh, fine. Go ahead. If that's what does it. That did happen in '98, where I wrote something Virginia Tech got mad at it and they used it for something. If that's the impetus that puts LSU over the top, I would be ecstatic to have that.
Pete Futak, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for the time.
Have a good one.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.